Death and the Maiden. In a fertile valley beside a pleasant stream, there lived a girl and her 6 brothers. They lived not richly, but happily, and birdsong crowned the hills, where they took their goats to pasture. One day, her eldest brother was weeding the garden. He stood up to stretch, put a hand to his head, and fell down, dead. As the other brothers mourned, the girl packed a bag with 3 apples and 3 rounds of cheese. "I am going to see death," she said. "I'll come back soon." And so she set off, up to the peak of the highest hill, almost a mountain, where there was an outcrop of bare stone. Not even lichen grew there. The girl walked all the way around the outcropping, and when she got back to where she started, there was a cave. She went in. The cave went downward for a long time, and the girl ate one of the apples and one of the cheeses. Then she came to a vast lake. There was a skip, and she took up the pole and began to make her way across the water. She pulled for a very long time before she reached the shore. She ate the second apple and cheese round there, before continuing on her way. The lake shore gave way to a forest, but the trees were all made of bones, with mushrooms for leaves and watery eyes blinking in the hollows. The girl crunched through fingers of bone before she reached a small house. When she knocked on the door, someone called for her to come in. The voice was neither high nor low, neither welcoming nor threatening. She pushed on the door and went inside. And there was Death, cloaked and seated at a small table. "Hello," she said. "I have come to ask you to return my brother to life." "Sit," Death said. The girl sat. "What have you brought me?" said Death. The girl rummaged in her bag and took out the apple, its ruddy glow like sunrise. She put it down on the table beside her. Death reached for the apple with a normal human hand and ate it, core and all. The girl waited. At last, Death looked at her. "No," he said. And just like that, the girl was returned to the mouth of the cave, and by the time she got back home, her oldest brother was still dead. The girl's second eldest brother was in the pasture with the goats when he died, and they bleated over him until he was found. The girl once again packed her bag and made her way to the cave on the hilltop. She once again made the long trek down the cave, across the lake, and through the forest of bone. And once again, Death bade her sit at his table. "What have you brought me?" Death asked. The girl placed the cheese beside her this time, and once again, Death ate the whole thing, even the rind. "No," he said. The girl was returned to the mouth of the cave, and she wept and wept. Then she went home. The girl's third eldest brother died during dinner, falling headfirst into his plate. The girl packed her bag with all the best foods and drinks of her house and made her way to the cave on the hilltop. She once again made the long trek down the cave, across the lake, and through the forest of bone, and once again, Death bade her sit at his table. "What have you brought for me?" Death asked. One by one, the girl laid out the elements of a feast: goats and chickens, wine and beer, fruit and cheese, and Death ate it all. "No," he said, and this time, when the girl was returned to the mouth of the cave, she did not cry. The girl's fourth eldest brother died on the roof while fixing the thatch. He fell, but she knew he was dead before he struck the ground. Once again, the girl packed her bag and made her way to the cave on the hilltop. She went down the path, across the lake, and through the forest of bone. She went and seated herself at the table of Death and took out the most precious object of her house, the medal her father had earned in the war. It was made of solid gold, and Death ate it in 2 bites. "No," he said. The girl's fifth eldest brother died in the night. She did not pause to take a bag before going to the cave. She did not rest between descending and swimming and navigating through the forest. She did not pause after she knocked to be welcomed in. She only went and sat down. "What have you brought me?" said Death. "Myself," she said. Death stared at her. "I know you have not brought back my other brothers. I know you will not bring back this one either. So, spare my youngest brother," she begged. "Please, you can have me instead." "No," said Death. By the time she got back from the cave, her youngest brother was dead too. The girl ran back to the cave. She ran down the path and dove into the water. She swam across the lake and made watery footprints among the bones and the mushrooms. "What have you brought me?" Death said. "Nothing," she said. And then she smashed the plates. She upended the table. She grabbed the chairs and threw them against the wall. And amid all the wreckage, Death stood there, unmoved. He opened his mouth, and she knew he would say no, so she grabbed the long robe, whirled it around and around, trying to shred it, and eventually she whirled it over her head, and it settled on her shoulders. She wanted to cry, but when she made a sound, the voice was neither high nor low, neither welcoming nor threatening. No.